Hey guys, Anthony 4x4 Diesel. We're just doing an inspection on a Hilux. A lot of people said, what about the Hiluxes? So we're going to get more Hiluxes in and do a bit of inspection and try and point out all the things you need to look out for on those. And we've already found a couple of things and a couple of questions that came up that were fairly important that sort of just shows that there's more information people need to look after the vehicle. Just having a quick look around this side, but to be quite frank, it was the brake fluid that I was looking at, and it's going to be hard to demonstrate this for you, so let me turn that light off and see what happens. But it's hard to see through these clear containers, but I can tell there's some stains and marks in there. It sort of just leads me to believe, without even taking the cap off, that the brake fluid, it's something that gets missed. A lot of people miss the brake fluid. A lot of workshops either don't do it or don't do it properly. They seem to think that one bottle of brake fluid and suck a bit out and pour it in and the job's done, or just, you know, bleed it a little bit and the job's done. It's really a matter of, you need to get you can't always do this on all vehicles and all master cylinders, but you really need to get all that fluid out as much as you can and give it a really good bleed through, and it can take a good couple of litres or so, just depending how bad it is. And you want to do it as prevention. You don't want to let it get bad, because there's no way of really cleaning that out without upsetting things. And the big precaution and warning is, don't pump your brake pedal past its normal travel, especially if the vehicle's older and the brake fluid hasn't been done, or that's going to cause you problems. Let's keep having a bit of a look around the engine bay, and underneath, we'll move it up soon and have a look underneath the vehicle and let you know of any other issues we see here. We like to see the coolant's nice and Toyota genuine red type colour. Okay, this vehicle's a 2013. It's done 154,000 Ks, and we've noticed the drop. I can't see a sticker for the time belt. The time belt light's on. Maybe it's been done, whatever the case may be, but either way, you can see the main drive belt is all dry. That's why there's one reason we replace that, is mainly because it stretches. They generally don't fail. We see them at very high Ks, and it's very rare to find cracks in them unless they're aftermarket, and that's why we recommend genuine, because we see them at 300,000 Ks without cracks in them, and then we see the ones with cracks, and they always tend to be those other brands. We're not going to name other brands, we don't need to hang it on them. And of course the bearings in these genuine pulleys is the go, which is actually why we supply you the BFE kit. You know, the water pump, we upgrade you to the two-piece water pump, the drive belt, and those bearings and all the other stuff you need to get the job done right the first time. Let's have a look underneath the vehicle and see what we can find under there, and we'll come back up here if we get bored underneath. Okay, so we're going to have a look underneath here. The first thing I notice is the bash plate. So it's done a little bit of off-road and it's quite knocked around and bent. Now, the bad news is kaon.com.au. That's K-A-O-N. That's not me. That's Kaon. We recommend good businesses and quality products. They don't do a bash plate for the Hiluxes, I'll say yet. So I have reminded them that there's a lot of Hiluxes and a lot of them go off-road, and there's a lot of crappy bash plates. So don't buy one yet. Sit tight and wait until Kaon. Just drop them an email once a month. Say, hey, have you got any underbody protection for the Hilux yet, like the bash plate at the front here, right? It should be a two-piece to replace that piece there and that piece there. And you can see it needs it, because with the independent suspension, that's what bounces and takes, you know, quite a hit every now and then. And you're probably not going to damage anything, but you've got a plastic actuator here on the diff there. So you do want to, you know, it's for the, as it says, ADD. So you need to just be careful of that. So it is worth getting a bash plate for that. We've checked the lower control arm bushes. This, remember, 154,000 Ks, and there's no cracks or anything like that. There's a bit of twisting and whatever. So when we show you on some vehicles how, you know, they're cracked and that sort of thing, bear in mind that it doesn't usually happen till about the 250,000 K mark, those lower arm bushes. So you don't need to run in. We don't like waste. We don't want to sell you anything or have you spend money wasting money doing things that don't need to be done. We're trying to help you value for money. We've had a bit of a look around. The brakes are about, you know, 50% worn. It's got some aftermarket upper control arms. No comment, it's probably best. It's got Tough Dog suspension. No comments, probably best. It's had some work done on the drive shaft. Some boots have been replaced or something, so that's fine. There's none leaking. All the genuine usual stuff is okay, right? So, you know, you're let's have a look at the usual rack on the Hilux. You know how they get that sweat sometimes? I think you can see a lid. Is there a little bit? No, it's bone dry at this side. Let's check out this side. Okay, nothing, you know how we'd not, oh yeah, a little bit. See that little bit there? Nothing to worry about. Okay, now while we're talking about oil leaks, these are not leaks, but somewhere up in here is a crank seal. It'll be very difficult to get the camera in there and show you, but somewhere up in there is the crank sensor. I keep saying crank seal, not crank seal. Nothing wrong with the crank seal, that's up there. The crank sensor, there's a sensor over there somewhere that it's going to be, with the bash plate on, I'm not going to be able to show you, but you get a bit of a sweat sometimes, and this has got that. No big deal. It's not a leak, it's not a drip, it doesn't need replacement. Okay, it's been getting enough lubrication to the drive shaft, so that's good. You can see a bit of grease at the slip joint there. Nice and lubricated, but without it spraying everywhere is ideal. There's a little bit up here, that's not too bad. It means it's been lubricated. Now let's just take a look down towards the back. The exhaust system's been modified, so anybody that wants to get an exhaust system, again, I can save you a lot of money. These exhaust systems are really good, and I think that the exhaust place, who also sells chips, once said to me, just cut out the muffler, right? And this, you know, they can do this sort of stuff. Well, back then he quoted me $100. So let's go a couple $100, whatever, to put a hot dog in and get rid of that muffler. Now, I've got the owner of the vehicle here. Did you drive the vehicle before and after that muffler change, or not really? No. Okay, cool. So can't really get our feedback on that. What else? What else have we found? A lot of grass up in the spare wheel, so probably worth dropping that down and clearing that out. Everything under here looks original, other than the aftermarket suspension. You can see the bigger tyres and that sort of thing. But at 154,000 K, so these brake lines are a little bit stressed actually. So these Tough Dogs, maybe they're a bit long. Let's just have a, oh, it's not too bad. What you want is, you know, it's okay for them to go maxed out, as long as they're not, you know, yanking really hard on the brake lines, the wiring loom, that's okay. So at 154K, a Toyota's a Toyota. It's absolutely awesome. I can't see anything here. Anything else I can tell you? So it's quite boring under here, so Hiluxes are good.
That's good news, man.
There you go. What else? What have I forgotten? Anything else? Anybody? Anything else we've found that we need to tell people about? You know, the boots were changed here. Maybe the paddock work. You know, you get a bit of a hit in the drive shaft boot every now and then. The turbo's all dry, so that's the ideal picture. But every now and then you see oil on them. But this one's bone dry, which you'd pretty well expect at 150. It's a 2013, so it is 8 years old. So it's not brand new or anything like that. So underneath, I think that's about it, and we'll have a bit more of a look under the bonnet, see what we can find there, right? Before we go up there, I did find another wire just sitting there, and you can see it is just kind of sitting there, rubbing around. It is zip tied there, but it is kind of just like, you know, hanging around a bit, and it is double insulated, so it's not too bad. There's a zip tie there, and it goes on wherever it goes down here. But personally, anything that runs under the chassis, or just about anywhere where possible, corrugated split tubing, just for that extra protection. I know the dual, you know, insulation, that's good, but it's just not as, I think the corrugated split tubing is a lot tougher. So I just wanted to mention that, that wire to the back. So I'd be just, yeah, cut the zip ties, run some corrugated split tubing and tidy it up a bit, some more zip ties, bada bing. So we're going to have a bit of a look around up here, some really important things we need to check out to thoroughly evaluate the health of this vehicle and the engine. We've had a look at the diagnostic. It's one of the first things we did, and because it's as I've explained in the diagnostics videos, and we've got a playlist on that, so on our channel, check our playlist, Diagnostics, if you want to understand that. When the injectors changed in 2009, there's usually, most often, nothing you're going to see in diagnostics, and this really showed up, everything's perfect, and it was very quiet. I haven't driven it yet, that's yet to happen, and we gave it the usual rev check for diesel smoke, and it was very clean. And why is that at 154,000 Ks? Probably because the injectors have never been out. So what we're going to do now, I've had a quick look around. It looks like all the nuts and bolts haven't been touched, but we're going to zip this cover off the intercooler and have a look at around, and I'll point out a few of the usual sort of things we'll check so that you can maybe tell if your injectors have been removed or not. And this is not just on 1KDs. You can do this on any vehicle by looking at all the usual components that would be removed to remove or change injectors. What else were we going to mention? So yeah, the diagnostic was really good. Now, when we have vehicles come in at 80 or 90,000 Ks and someone's saying, oh, you know, it's noisy or knocky, whatever, this sort of thing, that's when we find that, you know, there's marks on the nuts and the pipes. And then when we eventually change the injectors, we find that the pipes have been bent and they've been out, and it's all contamination to the risk of contamination to the injectors by removing the fuel pipes is so high it's not funny. It's just not worth the risk. You don't go in there. In my opinion, I've got a lot of experience on these engines, and the seats are going to last as long as the injectors in most cases, and your free insurance is checking that oil pickup. And once you get to the 140, 150,000 K mark from new, from original, that's when you need to be really vigilant, checking it every 5,000 Ks. Another reason for 5,000 K oil changes, which we've explained in all the other videos. Don't forget to subscribe and turn the bell on if you don't want to miss all the next most important bits of video. But I'm just going to have a look around now and try and work out. So the clamps underneath the intercooler, which you guys can't see, but there's a couple of clamps there, and they don't look like they're over tightened. Normally, the torque specification on those is 5 Newton meters. And most people over tighten them, and we will even over tighten them on injector replacement because they need to be as tight as they need to be to not slide on the pipes. The bolts, the nuts here on the clamp on the side of the fuel lines, any marks on the fuel pipes, nothing. So there's nothing there. We'll come and have a look up the top at this end of the fuel pipes. Looking at the fuel pipe there's not a mark on that nut. So I believe from that quick inspection that the injectors have never been out, which is good news, and why it's running so well at 150,000 Ks, because it hasn't been messed with. Now, that being said, I just want to mention as well, just quickly, there is going to be a shortage of injectors. The people that wait patiently, this I suppose is for the people in Australia, because I can only help you if you're in Australia. I can't sell injectors, supply injectors to the whole world, but if you're in Australia, wait patiently, make sure you get the injectors off me. Now's not a good time to buy injectors anywhere but from me, because there's a lot, I've talked about it before, there's hundreds and hundreds, I'm not even going to give you a number, a month, probably over 1,000 in just this one particular part number that goes in this engine. And if you go to any of these big organisations, they're too big to know what's going on. There's going to be a lot, there's only remanufactured injectors available at the moment, okay? So we're well stocked, we've got more coming, but we may run out as well. I'm not sure if it's due to Denso just manufacturing less, or the fire in the factory in Japan of the electronic components, or what the delay and how long it's going to be. But don't be impatient because I haven't got stock. Wait, otherwise you might end up with those Chinese copies, the remanufactured or other brands. And as per, if you watch our videos, you'll be on channel, you'll understand why we do what we do, just trying to save you the heartache of doing things twice. Now, the only other few things we've found here is the usual, the wiring on this one, it's not too bad, right? So this cover should obviously be up here, on there, that sort of thing. There's a few wires banging around here, whatever. You know, it's not the worst one we've seen, but the usual wiring. Wiring's really important. It's what causes fires and failures. So keep an eye on that. Charles, have you got any other questions before we...
I was going to ask about the EGR.
EGR?
Blanking, catch
That's right. So you were asking, you know, look, so you can't blank these. That will give you a fault code. What a lot of people have done for many years now, I think, you know, I don't know how many years, if it's 5 or 6 years at least, thousands of people have been putting in the EGR flow reduction. So it doesn't stop the EGR from working, it reduces the flow. So EGR flow reduction plate, it's got a 7mm hole. It does work really well, definitely keeps the whole intake clean. And they're like $12, right? So catch cans, you also mentioned about a catch can. You're asking about
worth it or not.
Okay, so a catch can does a separate job. A lot of people are a bit confused at the moment. I watched a post, was it a post or something today? And that's no, someone messaged me. That's right. Someone sent me a message or something. Where was it? I can't remember where it was. No, it was a reply on the YouTube. Okay, so guys, do put your questions in the on the YouTube videos. I can't answer them all. I'll answer the odd one, but all your answers are in the next video, and that's what's happening right now. If you're not subscribed with the bell on and you asked a question, your answer may be in a video, mixed in a video just like this. This is an inspection video that if you didn't watch it, you're not getting all this extra information. So you really need to, it's one video a day. It's usually about 10 minutes. It could be 5, it could be 20. This one's going on a bit, but it's all really important information that I want to fit in the video. So what was I talking about? Catch cans. So somebody said, oh, look, I'm draining the catch can every, I can't remember how often, and there's about 40ml of black stuff, but it's not oily. And there's all these replies going, oh, it could be this, it could be that. I'll tell you what's going on. I've explained it before in PCV videos, crankcase ventilation. you've got to watch the videos to understand the operation. So exhaust gas recirculation is exhaust gas is being put into your intake. That's one system. And another system is your PCV or crankcase ventilation. That's your breather from your valve cover that goes down to your turbo, to your intake as well. And the reason that's there is to vent the engine, and the main reason is to get the water out. You know, water and oils don't mix. It makes a mess of a chocolate milkshake. You can't have water in engines, but because it runs on air, air has water in it. A certain amount of that combustion blows past the rings. The moisture ends up in the crankcase. That's in the engine. That's the air in the engine. It does go to the top, like condensation, just like when you're camping in the tent, you get moisture on the roof, and we want that out of there. And that's what your catch can's picking up. If you didn't have the catch can there, that moisture would go straight to the intake. We're talking about 40 mil in 10,000 Ks or something like that. It's actually good because more moist, dense air works better, it's more efficient, and it's that small it's not worth talking about. So you don't need to take it out. People, this is someone was talking about a ProVent 200. I'm not a catch can expert. I don't know which ones are good or bad. I just hear about the problems when they block up because that system then can't breathe. I see the engines with catch cans that are black inside because they can't breathe, and people are just not getting oil in them. If there was oil in them, where does it come from? It comes from your sump, which would mean that if you do a service every 10,000 Ks, there's going to be a lot less oil in there. And the fact of the matter is these don't burn oil, and the same oil's in there at the end of the... So yeah, the catch can is not needed. It can cause problems. They can block up. They can pop seals. We've seen all that. They're expensive. They can be mounted unsatisfactory, that can do damage to the vehicle. The hoses can rub. They can be kinked, depending if they're fitted that way or if they move with heat. If it's blocked, it won't work the way it's designed to. The original ventilation system is the best way to be, and the EGR is your problem. If you want to not have your EGR cake up, you need to buy an old vehicle that hasn't got EGR, or you need to disable your EGR, which would be illegal, so it's up to you whether you want to do that. There's a whole more detail. I'm not the lawyer, or I'm not going to tell you what you can do or not. You need to check your legalities in your state or country. But a lot of people are using that 7mm hole on the 1KDs to reduce the flow. The EGR system still works, but I'll tell you now, it's either way, it's rob Peter to pay Paul on the whole EGR. It's an absolute mess. That's why DPFs are good on one respect, because it does clean that, but then they cause a lot of problems and can be unreliable because of the conditions they're used in. So you need to be aware of that, and a lot of other technology problems with the new engines. Anyway, guys, that's gone on long enough. I reckon we're done here. What do you reckon? Are you cool?
Yeah, it's all done.
Okay. Did we forget anything? So this is done 154K. The injectors are good. The downside is the seats. See, we're saving you hundreds and hundreds of dollars because every 40,000 Ks, these injectors are supposed to come out to check the valve clearance, but the proper procedure is to replace the seats at the bottom of the injectors. Now, the problem we got is, by doing so, you can see the dust and dirt here, and even if we thought we were done, didn't we? No, that's why you subscribe, turn the bell on, because you're going to miss all this info. All the dirt and dust that accumulates in these seals and around the pipes will end up in the inlet of the injector as soon as you remove that. Even if you clean it and you blow it, you can take all the care. If you want, you can sit that cover back on, because we're about done with that. Thanks, mate. You can take all the care you like, and it's still risky that, you're going to get something into those injectors. So we like to leave them alone. We know how long the seats last. It's an absolute minimum of about 140,000 Ks from factory. It's very rare that they fail then. This adds to our reasons why we recommend injector replacement about 7 years. 170 is the average, because it's a very long time. Keep your injectors in peak condition when you've got an engine putting out this much power and torque, which is quite a lot for a 4-cylinder engine, the work they do. The seats are going to be what lets go, right? So these injectors are going to be good for a while yet. The seats are going to start leaking. That's what blocks the oil pickup, and most of you that are watching are going, I already know that. Why you go? Because there's a lot of people that are new, and we need to just explain it to them, and we need to remind them again. Please go and watch all the older videos. Search our playlists for the subject you need. Injector information, injector seat information, that sort of thing. Get yourself educated so you understand. On this, we'd be recommending injector replacement, not because the injectors are really bad or completely flogged, because they've got to come out at around the 170, 180K mark to be safe. Now, when I say that, the variables are, if you do 60,000 Ks a year, mate, you can do 200,000 Ks. It's probably going to be okay. It's the shorter trips, stop-start, that they're going to leak at 150,000 Ks, and it's going to be the those trips where the vehicles that do higher Ks, that are going to last 300,000 or 400,000 k's. Okay, so there's a lot of variables there. So if you need to watch the videos, understand it better from our experiences, and you'll be able to decide. I don't want to sell you injectors unnecessarily, especially at the moment with the shortage there is on one particular part number. We don't want to be throwing injectors into vehicles that don't need it. But the risk, we could say, let's take these injectors out and let's reseat them. We're going to do all that work, all the labour, spend the money. We may even want to replace the fuel pipes so that we don't end up with a leak, and because they're dirty, old, corroded things, we don't want to put them anywhere near the injectors, but it's still a risk. We've got ways to make sure we don't get stuff into the injector, but it's a 95% chance sort of thing, probably 98% chance that we're going to be okay. But shortly afterwards, you're going to be doing injectors anyway, so you're just paying labour twice. So all the money you've saved every 40, 80, 120, 160, then at 170, 180, you're going to do the job and you're going to get free injectors because you haven't paid the labour to ruin your injectors prematurely and supposedly check your valve clearance so that we know we're going to be okay as long as you don't have a catch can. And if you've got a EGR reduction, is a bonus, you know, and that's because we've explained it in other videos. The catch can takes the moisture out, which isn't designed to, but that little bit of oil that's in the intake must help with lubrication, because there's a pattern where all the vehicles we've seen with catch cans, when we do the injectors, and we're talking about we've had lots of injectors out of vehicles measuring valve clearances and doing compression tests. The pattern is the compression test is not quite as good on the vehicle with a catch can. It's not really bad. And the ones with valve clearances that are out can often be the ones with catch cans, and the consistency with that dry EGR, like dry carbon going through the engine, wearing the valve seats down. Anyway, I've gone on long enough. If everyone's happy, we're out of here. Please give us a thumbs up. That's a bada bing, bada boom. Subscribe, turn the bell on, we're out of here.
Thanks, Seth. Have a good day.
No worries, buddy.